guys! Welcome to another video. So in case you don't know, here in Belgium right now in January it's exam season, especially for university and college students. High school students have exams in December. So that means I'm in the middle of studying and doing exams and stuff like that. Now, if you ask any of my friends or acquaintances to describe me, chances are they'll say that I'm smart and that I get good grades. Because that is the case. I do get good grades, I always have. And one of the questions I got most, especially in high school, was how? How do you study? How do you get the grades that you get? So I thought it would be fun, or like educational, I guess, to explain to you guys what I actually do and how I decide what to study, what not to study, and stuff like that. So first up, at the beginning of the semester, at the end of September here in Belgium, I go to all of my classes in the first week to kind of see what the deal is. Do I like the professor? Do I think I should go to the class? Should I skip it? For example, if a class or a course has a textbook I can use, or if they say in the first class, it doesn't matter what I say here, you just have to know the textbook. Obviously, I'm just gonna learn the textbook because half of the time it's faster and easier than actually going to class. I'll also take into account whether they say something like, I really say extra stuff in class, or attendance is mandatory, which doesn't happen too often in my course. I do psychology. But yeah, those are the things you should really take into account. Also, another thing here in Belgium, especially at Ghent University where I study, is the fact that some classes actually get recorded. So, for example, in my first year of university, literally every class I took was recorded. So if I missed one or I was sick, it didn't really matter. I could just watch it at home. It's also a good idea to actually make friends with people you know are like good students, because it helps if you miss a class that isn't recorded, you can just ask for their notes and whether you missed anything important. Then obviously an important one if you do go to class is how do you take notes. I am thinking of making an entirely separate video of how I take notes during classes, because it's kind of a different style than most people, I've heard, because most people don't like my notes because they don't understand them. But I'll make a different video on that. Now, this period of the year, which we call block, which is kind of just the period of the year where you study before you take your exams. The first and most important thing for me is organization. Make sure you know what you have to study. So go back and get everything you have, whether it's random scraps of paper you took notes on in some class, anything you can find regarding that class, put it in a folder. I use one of these babies, the little rainbow folders, which open up, and during the year I'll put anything from any class in here, and then just keep track of everything, which is easier than having to go and look for everything at the end of the semester. Obviously, since this is 2019 now, I also take notes using my computer, my MacBook. I'll keep everything located in my Google Drive. I make a folder called 2018, and then I try to divide by course, and within the course by whatever is logical for that course. So some courses will have exercises and theory. Some courses will have like class 1, class 2, class 3. That's easier for that course. It'll depend on what type of course I'm taking. So I keep my online notes there, and then my offline paper or things that were distributed during the class in my rainbow folder. Then when I've organized everything, I've brought everything together, I will make a plan. I do try to sit down at the start of what we call block, so the start of the study period. I will sit down, I will write out everything you have to know per course. So for example, if I have a course where there's 11 chapters in a book, 12 weeks of class, which is the semester here in Belgium, and 13 exercise classes I've been to, I will write all of these out, and then I'll still have a little part where I can write extra stuff that I've thought of, like, oh, I still need to read like 15 articles for this class, for example. I'll do that for every course I'm taking, and then after I've done that, I will put everything on like a planner, a calendar basically. So I try to, like, I like to write them out manually, just really writing it out, rather than typing it in some kind of online system, but that's personal preference. I'll put up a picture of my planner here. I tend to start at the beginning of December, which gives me a month in advance, like a month and a week-ish in advance before exam starts. And then I write out, for example, make a summary here, or study this part, or whatever. This year is one of the years where I didn't do the best type of planning because I just wrote the name of the course and nothing else, because I didn't feel like I had enough time to actually decide which parts of which course I was doing at which day. I had so much other stuff going on, my master thesis for example, so I didn't really have time, but you get the idea, I think. What's also important to know with the planning is that it is actually good to write out, for example, this day I will quiz myself on chapter 1 to 5 from this course, because quizzing yourself is the most important thing for me, and that leads to the actual studying, my actual study habits. My first piece of advice when it comes to actual studying is find your thing. For example, for me, I've learned over the years that I learn the most when I'm explaining stuff to other people, which is handy because I used to be the person that everyone kind of like texted and stuff. Can you please explain this to me? So I learned by explaining that stuff to others. But other people really need to write down everything. And I know other people who record themselves explaining something and then listen to it on a loop for days on end, which I would go crazy from, but sure. And for me, like I said, one of the most important things is stopping at certain intervals. For example, every time I've done a chapter, I'll stop, I'll go back, reread it, and then quiz myself. Because one of the most important things you can never forget is that reading isn't studying. Studying is quizzing yourself, asking yourself questions. You learn so much more if you ask yourself questions. If you're just highlighting a text, you may be doing a bit more than just reading, but it's still not gonna be enough, or not in Belgium at least. So why is that? Because it's way more important to make sure you understand what you have to study rather than just memorizing it by reading it. First of all, I don't think you can memorize anything by reading it, but that's just me. And second of all, if you understand something, you can keep thinking while you're in the exam and it'll go easier rather than if you just have to follow like the memorized path that you made in your head. But in case you do have to memorize something, it always happens if you have to know like a certain list of things. My tactic or my advice for it is that you start at the beginning, you go off your list. For example, if you have to memorize the first how many numbers of pi, for example, you go by number, and if you make a mistake, you go back and start again. And you keep doing that, which means you have to redo the first few numbers like a million times, but it'll help you to memorize those numbers better and better and better the more you like repeat them. Another important tactic that I use specifically is I summarize my stuff. This has to do with my note-taking, because my kind of note-taking is actually already a summary, but I'll do that in another video. What I try to do is during my study period of a month, I try to downsize my summary. So I started like a lengthy summary and I try to make it smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until I just have one word. And if I hear the one word, I'll just go on a tangent of this and this and this is connected to this word. It means this and this and this, and the consequences of that are this and this and this. And I'll just have like a kind of mind map in my head of what this one word is connected to. And it's a really good way to make sure you don't have to memorize a lot, but based on the things you do memorize, you can say all of these other things. When I talk about downsizing my summary and making it smaller and smaller and smaller, I start out with a folder like this one, which has, like, I've had it since my 4th year of high school, which has all of my summaries in it from all of my courses. And then I try to downsize it in here, and I end up with just one folder this size that I take with me to the exam, which has like a few pages of summary in it. Now, the last but absolutely not the least important thing that I want to say here is that it's important you make this fun. I know a lot of people hate studying. I personally don't. I do like studying. I like to learn stuff, but try and make things fun. If you want to use apps, use apps. For example, there's this really cool app where you can grow a tree if you don't go on your phone. If you want to use like color coding and very colorful, fun folders like my rainbow folder, or like use lots of highlighters in different colors, do it. Anything that can make it more fun for you, you should use it. And don't forget to reward yourself. It's very important to take breaks when studying because your brain doesn't necessarily have the ability to keep going all of the time. So take a break as a reward. For example, if you've done half an hour of studying, go and take a walk for 5 minutes, or go downstairs. For example, if you're living at home, go downstairs and take 5 minutes to talk to whoever is at home that day, or to pet the dog or whatever. Anything that helps you get out of your like room where you're studying for a second will help you reset and get back into like the energetic study mode. So I hope this answered some questions, especially for the people who have been asking me about this stuff for years and years. I know you're watching. For me this method works, but obviously everyone's different. Everyone has different ideas of what works for them. So try and find your way of studying, and I hope everyone has great exams and great results. Bye!